Good evening, Data Storytellers. Paul from the Data Storytellers here, and I'm with Glenn Hofmann, who's the Chief Analytics Officer with New York Life Insurance Company. Great to have you with us, Glenn.
Great to be here.
Awesome. To start with, tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, what you do on a day-to-day, what makes you passionate about data analytics. A very brief intro.
Sure, yeah. So Glenn Hofmann, I've been, what we now call a data scientist, I guess, my life. And, I run the Center for Data Science and Artificial Intelligence at New York Life, which is a corporate centralized data science and AI function at one of the largest life insurance companies in the United States.
Awesome. And, you've been doing this for a while now. I'm just taking a look at your background. You've been in the finance space and especially in analytics for the better part of 15 years now. Why have you stayed in the industry for so long?
Yeah, I mean, well, certainly I've been in data science, a long time. Certainly before it was called data science, and I mean, I started out as a PhD in statistics when it was called statistics and not data science. I had a stint as a stats professor, and did research and a lot of consulting and teaching and all of that, and then came to the industry after 5 years as an academic. Came to the industry, worked in a bunch of different companies, mostly in the financial services space, and probably the last decade or so in the insurance space. It's been, I think it's exciting. It's always been exciting to be in data science. It seems to be getting more exciting every year. Just the variety of challenges that we get, the variety of data that we see is just astounding. And I get new challenges, new types of problems every year, and that's just fabulous. I think those few professions like data science where you get this amount. If you're on the right position, where you get this kind of variety of business challenges and technical challenges to keep us entertained.
And this is the $1 million question in the industry, right? How do you balance the technical aptitude with creating real business results and using that and harnessing that technology? How do you see data analytics today in general? So outside of life insurance for now, what do you think about the state of data functions and the general progress of data-driven business transformations in the corporate world?
I think that's very much still a work in progress, probably a bit, because it is still a relatively new function, right? If you look at, corporations, you've had CFOs, you've had chief marketing officers, you had CIOs for a long time, but chief data officers, chief analytics officers, only the last few years that has really become prominent, right? I mean, there've been a few of them earlier, but now probably more than half the companies have them, but that's like only the last handful of years, if not less. So it's still early in the journey, and the importance of sort of evangelism and changing the business culture to database decision making, rather than human intuition-based decision making, which was common for many hundreds of years. That's still very much part of the job of every leader in the science, no matter what level.
I think it's really interesting because we've seen, especially with the COVID pandemic, that we've kind of moved away to this Zoom and Teams-based approach where it's really hard to build those relationships. But at the same time, there needs to be that balance between moving away from gut feel decision-making to data-driven decisions and database decision-making, as I think you mentioned. So super interesting to take a deeper dive into that later. For now, where do you see data science specifically in life insurance? We talked in general. Let's dial it into your industry.
Yeah, I mean, data science and life insurance is super exciting because it is, still early, and the impact that data science can have on that industry is just, is huge, right? So, and that goes into many different aspects of life insurance. I mean, the two biggest one are probably sales and underwriting. So on the sales side, analytics is brand new. We've done things like, recruiting models for agents, like activity models for agents, which are a distribution system, basically. We've done sort of, various other studies around, different motivations, different experiments in the distribution organization. So that's, and we've made a large impact on that, which, directly impacts sales, which is, quite relevant to the senior leaders at any company. And then on the underwriting side, we're building sort of the first versions of mortality models for life insurance. We're building the first versions of, data triage models. I mean, in life insurance, we get a lot of medical data, on individuals. And some of it is, fast to get, some of it is slow and expensive to get when I trust that data. But we also, the business of life insurance, we are essentially insuring mortality risk. So we have to, process. And now, the larger companies are, have just started to build models in the last, 5 years or so. So we're building the first versions of mortality models, which are super interesting and have a lot of complicated data behind it. So that the business impact that we can make right now in life insurance is very large, and it goes across underwriting, marketing, service organization. There's a lot of customer touch points and service centers, marketing organization, finance organization. So we have a large variety of, pretty high impact projects.
Mm. And we're definitely going to take a deeper dive into your role and data science over at New York Life. Before we do that, you mentioned that this role of the CDO. So what do you think that the heads of functions, the chief data officers, chief analytics officers like yourself, what is their role in transformations today?
I think transformation and innovation is the main role, of that office. Pretty much any project we do is transformative, innovative. So there was obviously, I mean, for data scientists working on that, obviously they have to be strong technically, and they have to build good models and good analytical solutions. So the quality has to be high because that's table stakes. So we do care very much about that. But then beyond that, there is the dimension of being able to explain it to the business function, which implies, in my team, not just myself, but every level of data scientists or data science leaders has direct business interaction, which is important to me, and which is good for them because I think they get the exposure and they can grow as a data scientist. But it also implies that they do have to not just focus on building models or writing code, but also focus on explaining that to business people, which in turn implies them understanding what the business people worry about every day, whether that's salespeople or marketing people, service people, what is their job function, what do they worry about, what are their metrics, and how can we explain it to them in their terms? And that's really what it takes to make a difference.
And with these transformation projects, then, what do you think are the greatest opportunities for companies who have that senior leadership buy-in for data? Where would you suggest that these companies both the companies and leaders go if they're looking to get, say, some quick small wins with data science?
Oh, well, on a more strategic level, I think building a centralized function where you can have a critical mass of data scientists as well as data engineers and machine learning operations engineers to create some career paths for them, to create career opportunities for them. If those people are spread around in small groups around the company, then it becomes less attractive from a career perspective. So having a critical mass team where that can happen, where the expertise gets faster, careers get developed, and also then, you can centralize the resources to have the infrastructure and you have the influence to do that. I think that's key from a strategic perspective. Now, to answer your question at a tactical level, it's all important to sort of, demonstrate the value, and we certainly do that. Marketing is sort of an obvious one, right? So predicting customer acquisition, whether that's B2B or B2C, predicting retention, is always a big one, predicting cross-sell. So, advertising spend rationalization, those are some good ones. But then also, every company worries about sales, no matter what they do, right? So getting into the sales organization, which, they won't exactly understand the benefit if it's there, pretty quickly. So those are some opportunities for quick hits. Maybe service operation optimization could be another one. Those are some ideas.
So let's take a deeper dive into New York Life. So you built the data science and AI team there over the past, say, 5-6 years. And can you talk about how you made the case for data scientists to join your new and growing team, and at the same time made the case for using those machine learning models to your business partners? Because a lot of what you're talking about, and I really like this as well, is the data being the intersection of the business and of the technical side. So it'd be really useful just to talk about how you make the case for new people to join, but then also making the business case for those ML models.
Yeah. No, I think that all goes hand in hand, and it is very much analytics and the business. So I was brought in to stand up a function. But I don't think when they hired me, they knew exactly what they meant by building a function, right? So I kind of had to. What I did in the beginning is I talked to a lot of people in the company in the various business areas, the various functional areas, and then I kind of put a strategy together and said, all right, here's what I want to build in the next few years. Here's what I need in infrastructure in terms of human resources, different skill sets. And here are the main areas where this is going to make a benefit, right? And then I basically pitched that to the executive management of the company, and a decision was made to make, at least I'd say a small to medium-sized early investment, right? Which got me to maybe, 20 people or something like that, right? Which is not large, but it's a start. And then it sort of got a little more tactical. We started a whole number of projects, and then sort of started to show value, right? And once you start to show real value in some key places in the business, then you say, well, okay, but in order to make this a real thing, we need a little more investment here, we need a little more investment there, and then we kind of grew. So we grew, from like a base of maybe 15 to 20 people. The way we grew was, we got the projects, we got the business buy-in that these projects are important, and then we said, okay, now we need to staff it, we need to infrastructure it, and then little by little, well, maybe not so little, but we grew to what's now about 60 people in the U.S., maybe 20 contract people.
Two really, really great things I want to bring up. Well, many great things, and two I really want to dive a bit deeper into. You mentioned the pitch, the senior executive level pitch for more resources and more people in data, for example. What are some of the skills that you use in these pitches, would you say? Is there like a general theme? Are you painting a certain picture? I'm just trying to hint about the storytelling here, full disclosure.
Yeah. There's a couple of different angles to the story that I will tell. So one is obviously the sort of the direct business benefit, right? And a lot of sometimes that's measurable. Sometimes it's not like precisely measurable in dollars before you actually do the project, because you haven't seen the data, you don't exactly know what the numbers are, right? But you can illustrate the business benefit, some examples, and you can also use parallels from other industries. There may be a little further along in those, and there might be some industry studies from other industries. You can bring in, well, if achieved this level of benefit, and we should be able to get to something close to that, especially if it's like functions that are or areas that are similar in different industries, like marketing or people analytics, HR, or service analytics. Many industries have that, so you can sort of bring some examples for that. So that's one of the stories you can tell. Then you can tell a story also about competitive advantage, or maybe competitive catch-up, depending on the scale, right? And say, oh well, in order to, like, these are some key areas that are a competitive differentiator for us. If we can, increase our metrics by 10, 20%, for a number of years, that might be a true competitive advantage. We can get stock share, we can boost our profit margins, whatever we want to do with it. Or if you're, if you're in your industry a little further behind, you can say, well, this is what our competitors are doing, and taking advantage, and we need to catch up. And so whichever way you can tell that story, depending on what company you're at.
Yeah.
I think that's another, that's another one. And the third story you can tell is about sort of AI adoption in general, in the world, in the country, in our daily lives. And you say, oh, all right, here is what you expect. Like, say you want to do, website marketing or text mining or, image mining or something like that. And say, well, the standard of that, in general society, it's what what Google is doing, it's what Amazon is doing, it's what what the military is doing, it's and here's where they are, and here's where we are, and this is where the sailing. We want to be on that journey, right? So those are maybe a few different angles of stories that one can pitch.
Yeah, and it would be really good to hear some specific examples of the impact that data science has actually made to the business side of things at New York Life.
Yeah, sure. We can do a couple of those. I mean, I mentioned the agent recruiting example for there. So New York Life employs about 12,000 life insurance agents. They are our main distribution channel, and we tend to recruit about 4,000 new agents every year. But those 4,000 new agents that we recruit, they come out of an applicant population about 75,000, right? So imagine, you get through various different channels, 70,000 applicants for something that's essentially the same job. It could be in different geographies, and it could be different people applying, but it's essentially the same job. So obviously we cannot rigorously interview 70,000 people, right? That would be impossible to do. So we have to screen, right? We have to screen early, and so we build a model that is one step. It's one step in the recruiting process, but it does some screening and gives and basically scores people on their potential to be successful as a New York Life agent if they became one, right? So this has a number of benefits. It saves us a lot of time and money to in a process. I think it also has a benefit for the candidates that they don't that the ones that do come in are actually qualified and will succeed versus others that may not be the right option for them, right? So I think it's a benefit for the applicant population as well as for the company, and it's and it has a big difference in our agent quality.
Awesome. And specifically on the data literacy side then, actually, no, but let's talk about talent, because I think that's what you're alluding to there. And I really want to get in this. When you're looking for specific data science leaders, what kind of qualities do you look for? Are you looking for people who are, for example, open-minded, humble, assertive, maybe a mix of all of those?
Those all matter, of course. Probably more humble than assertive. What we look for, probably 3 or 4 things. First, obviously, technical strengths. So the data scientists, they should have training on how to build predictive models. Not just algorithms, but also the stats behind it, the coding behind it. So if it's MLOps engineers, they should understand the coding. They should understand MLOps platforms. They should have worked with data scientists if they're more senior. So technical strengths is we don't compromise on. Even for my direct reports who are leading larger data science teams, they have all built models and they all know technical data science. So somebody who doesn't know anything technically, right? So we'll play diligent on that. Second is probably we call it communication skills, maybe on a more junior level. I think we would call it stakeholder management skills on a more senior level. So be able to engage business people or technology people, perhaps, or legal people, and be able to really explain what is it we do, and do it frequently, do it better each time, do it verbally, do it in PowerPoints, do it in emails, and be able to guide and train and explain things to stakeholders. So that's a second thing. And then the third thing is, I think, having a focus on, or having an attitude for solving business problems rather than playing with toys, as I would say, right? So sometimes you get applicants that say, well, all I want to do is build neural network models. That's not a good candidate for us, right? For us, a good candidate would say, what is the most important business problem you have? I want to solve that with the best tools that I can find, right? That would be a different attitude, and that's more what you want, right? You want people that want to solve business problems. They should have a large toolbox, by all means, but the point is to use the best tool for the problem at hand, not the ones that people want to build on.
So with that in mind, then, what kind of toolkit are you using at New York Life to help your data scientists solve these business problems?
Yeah, I mean, so we have a pretty nice environment here. I mean, so from a coding perspective, we've got the full Python stack. With Jupyter and all the different components of the solid Python stack. We also have R Studio and the whole R stack. Some people still like R for certain things. So that's there. And then we have two main deployment platforms, which I think is probably the more important thing, because I think the frontier a little bit on data science, it's not so much building good models. We know how to do that. We've known that for a while. It's deploying models into the business processes, effectively and relatively quickly. So for that, we've got two platforms to do that. One is sort of a Kubernetes-based, containerized, centralized platform. We went with one of the main vendors on that. Those two or three that are probably dominating the market. But so basically, we deploy all of our models directly from R or Python into that platform. No code translation, nothing like that. Maybe some code improvements that we might have to do. But it goes directly from Python into the platform. It gets containerized as a model. And then from that one platform where we put all of our models in, build APIs to any production system in the company. So that could be Salesforce and distribution. It could be our underwriting, production platform. It could be like Adobe and marketing. It could be, so an API goes there. So then, it goes directly into the business process, and you get an API call, you deliver scores either in batch or in real time. So that's our main platform. And then we also have a geospatial platform. So any sort of geospatial models that we build, which we have they get into a geospatial environment, and we can roll that out to the entire field organization, on that platform. So all of that assures that, data scientists have a good development environment where they can build stuff. But then also that the development environment sort of seamlessly goes towards a production environment, and we can put these models into the hands of users and making transactional decisions, making hundreds, dozens of transactional decisions a day, right away. Because I think data scientists, what they should watch out for is that whatever organization they join, that their work will be used, right? Work will be used.
Super interesting. And just on the back of the talent question, obviously a big part of talent is hiring. A big part is also retention, right? So how do you identify those leaders who they've nailed down they're looking at this from a very business centric perspective, and maybe they're ready to take that next level strategically? What kind of skills or qualities do you look for there?
Yeah. So I mean, in general, recruiting, we are yet again recruiting. So we do have a number of open positions for for both data scientists, data science managers, ML, machine learning operations engineers, as well as project managers. The recruiting obviously is something we pay a lot of attention to. We always are highly engaged in that, and we have I have a pretty good network. Certainly, we appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast and make that even bigger. So we have a number of different programs that we've done. I mean, we certainly do experienced folks recruiting. We do recruiting, direct from graduate school programs. We have a number of internships. I think this year we have 8 interns that are in master's and PhD programs. We also started a program this year where we hire sort of a diverse group of people with promising skills directly from college, and then train them partially here, and then while they are working for us, they're doing a master's degree on the side. So we have basically recruiting at all levels, and all channels, but we all we are somewhat selective. We want the that I talked about that matter. Now to your question on as people move sort of maybe in a more advanced stage in their career to like a mid-level or advanced level data leader, I think then the stakeholder management things become more important. Obviously, people management becomes more important. So we train people. I mean, we very much look for individual contributors who have the potential to be managers. We sort of give them a soft approach towards entering management, maybe with an intern or one employee. And then we do a lot of mentoring around communication skills, around influencing skills. We just did a multi-session workshop for my whole team on influencing skills, which is I think very important. And we do mentorship around what I would call business for the people that are moving up from being a manager to being a leader. We do some mentoring around what I would call business development. So basically, talking to business partners to design new projects, for the enterprise. So we kind of foster that, and people get to observe that and get to learn that. Because ultimately, when you want to be sort of a higher level leader in data science, you have to generate useful work, right? Which we call sort of internal business development.
And I love that, and I think that's something that's so underrated, is this idea of actually teaching people influencing skills. You have to be quite humble to be a really skilled data scientist from a technical perspective, and then be told, hey, you should come to this influencing class because it's like, hang on, I'm like 30 odd years old or older. I don't need to know how to influence people. Actually, you do, and that's the key issue. So, a couple questions on that. When you run this influencing skills class, firstly, what kind of skills are you teaching them? And secondly, how have you used these skills in your career, whether it's in New York Life or elsewhere, to your success?
Yeah, I mean, I use these skills a lot. I think I got exposed to that probably in my first job. My first business job. I worked for a guy who was he was in sales. He was my direct manager, and I remember I was a fairly young data scientist, right? And he gave me something to do like early in this job, and I walked into his office and I gave him a whole bunch of charts and tables, and I put that on his desk and started explaining that. He's like, "Glenn, this is not going to work. Give me like one page and give me the story. Give me the story. I don't want all the charts and pictures. Give me the story." He's a sales guy, right? So I think that was a very and then he taught me a lot about what does that mean? Tell me the story, right? And I started to really, get into that and not just give people the story, but give people the story in their language, right? Not in model performance metrics and language that we use as data scientists or statisticians, but in the language of a salesperson, the language of a finance person, the language of a marketing person, right? So I think that's really key. What helped me a lot. Now, skills training. So we had probably 5 or 6 workshops on this in the last 2 months for my entire team. People a few different things. We give them a methodology. Like, what does it mean to influence people? What are the tools that you have? What are the different perspectives to look at this? We gave them a bunch of methodology, and it doesn't really, methodologies doesn't matter. They're all pretty good. Just pick one so that people get some skills in that. And then we focused on, like PowerPoints, but not how to write PowerPoints, but how to tell a story with a PowerPoint, right? Where do you start? Where do you end? What are the different arguments that you put in? We had a special workshop around elevator pitches. Like, if you get a minute to tell somebody what you do and what you're working on, how do you do that? How, in a way that makes them more likely to use data science, right? We also did stakeholder mapping. So we said, all right, anybody in the team, I don't care what level, I don't care if it's the person that just started fresh at school, has a number of business stakeholders that they have to manage, that they have to stay in touch with. So we had everybody map, what is your stakeholder population? What are like the 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 people that you want to stay in touch with? What do you want to achieve with them? How often do you meet them? Let's schedule these meetings. So we have basically a structure around, how people communicate with business stakeholders and how they keep their community engaged. People of that, we don't expect that, somebody fresh from school, especially from a technical program, to know that. We expect them to be curious about it and be learning about it.
Yeah. An open mind, right? And I love the idea that the way you frame the story with your sales leader, because there were 2 elements to that. It was, okay, not only did he want to hear the story because he wants to understand, what you're bringing to him, but he was hungry for the story. I don't want this, Glenn, here's what I want. Give me this specific story, which I really like. And I'm sure we'll come back to that as well. But one element I really want to touch on is the trust piece. So as a senior leader, a massive company with a huge number of responsibilities, you have to execute a certain level of trust in your subordinates. So when you think about that mutual relationship, what do you think are some of the best ways to build and facilitate that?
Well, my team, I think the key thing with the team, which I spend a lot of time on, is to help them build their career, right? So make sure that the people on my team, and that starts with the junior people that just got the master's degree last week and joined us, right? To my direct reports, who are obviously much more senior, is to make sure that they progress in their career and their knowledge, and their experience. So that is what I focus on a lot. That's probably one of my two or three like objectives in my position. So that means training. It means mentoring. It might mean it might mean people going into different functions for a couple of years to learn some things. It could be that. It means giving them opportunities. It means also managing everybody a little bit differently according to their personality and their confidence level. Some people are like, very aggressive. They ask for the moon, and we might have to temper them a little bit and put them on a more realistic path. Other people, never are a little more shy, but we have to detect that they're capable of more and kind of put them in the right position to do that, with the right support. So I think worrying about people's careers is one important thing when it comes to the team. Another important thing for the team is really supporting them, right? So, we have a lot of data scientists that are organized in different teams. We support, we give them direct business exposure, right? Every data scientist, irrespective of level, will talk directly to business people. We don't have any translators, any intermediaries. I don't believe in that, right? Because things get lost in translation, and I've seen that happen. What we do, however, we have support for them. So we have a team of project managers that organize meetings, that make sure things happen. Because a lot of data scientists are introverted, left to their own devices. They may not talk to so many people. So we have project managers that help them do that, that facilitate that. And then we have machine learning operations engineers that take care of the platforms. So all the development and production platforms are there that help with model productionalizing, make sure that they have the right tech and coding support behind that. They built a bridge to the technology organization. We have a model governance team that builds the bridge to legal and government affairs and make sure that that our models are well validated, and then and they bring in the legal and the government affairs expertise into that. So we also have what we call our Data Science Academy, a large data science education program, not for my team, but for the rest of the company. So anybody in the company who has some interest in data science, we have a course for. We have anything from like the get to know, watch a few videos about data science, to like the hardcore, 10 course sequence that basically puts you on a data science career track, right? Which helps when we engage in projects. Maybe the people on those teams want to learn a little bit of that data science. So not every data scientist has to create their own content. We have a central organization that creates content for learning about data science, right? So all of those things are support for data scientists so that they can do their job well, and then also give them an opportunity to develop their career. And of course, the third thing is that what the stuff actually gets into production, gets to be used by the business, which I think is very satisfactory. If you worked on this great model and then you see it in production, today, that's pretty cool, right?
Absolutely. And this kind of, that's a really good organizational structure. You've answered a ton of my questions there. One thing I would ask is, with the data literacy engagement scheme, what kind of commitment do you see on that? Do you see like a lot of people from the different functions coming in to do that? Do you see that they're interested, and do you ever lose people at a stage, or does it tend to be the academy is so refined that people go through the end-to-end process? I mean, you're always going to get drop off in that sense. I'm just curious as kind of the success stories you've had there.
I mean, it is interesting, right? Because when I started this thing, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, perhaps, I put out the idea and said we're going to do this thing, and people told me, I don't know, you might get a handful of people to join this, right? It's not going to be very popular. It's pretty dry stuff. Well, as soon as we were like 2 years in, we had 300-400 people, wow, at any given point in time actively. So it became one of the largest training programs in the entire company, and it's widely popular, right? Because it's cool. People want to learn about AI. People want to learn about data science. And of course, people come in and out, and that's fine, right? People might take a course or two, and then they go away, and then they come back, and that's all right. And there are different levels of people and different levels of engagement. So that's all pretty flexible. But then we also, in addition to the academy, we have what we call the data science community. And so we have sort of a mailing list, and there was hundreds and hundreds of people on that. And then we put on events, right? We bring in external speakers. We bring in, our own data scientists give talks. We bring in some business people to get their perspective on projects that we have done. And now, lately these have been mostly virtual. And I think for any data science seminar that we do, we have 300 people on the line, watching this, right? So it's a pretty big deal, and it's it's quite popular.
That's awesome. It sounds like you're doing in that sense, you're doing a lot of really interesting stuff from educating the wider organization. What did you see your role as in the business then? Because you work with data scientists, you work with data managers, you also work in the data engagement, I would say, for the business. So if you had to dial down your role, what would that look like for you?
On the data engagement side, you mean?
Exactly. Do you see yourself as like a data champion for the business? Do you see yourself as the go-to data guy? How would you contextualize that?
Sure. Yeah. Probably a bit of all of that. Yeah. So I'd say that is true. I'll give you one example maybe that illustrates that. So in general, to answer your question, yes, I'm the data champion. I'm the analytics champion. Whenever there's a question like that, I get pulled in. Whether it's a legal question around data, whether it's a technical question on data, whether it's a question of what data source do we need to go to, So I do get pulled into those conversations, quite a bit, and I will be the champion of bringing in the right data rather than on somebody's intuition, right? So that's always my role there, and that role is sought after and it's respected. One example, I guess, which is that's still fairly current, I suppose, is. So think back about a little over 2 years, like March of 2020, right? What happened in March in 2020 that was very important for life insurance? COVID, right? So we obviously insure mortality, and mortality kind of went up a bit, at that time, and it's still actually fairly high. So COVID hit, and my boss walks into my office and he says, "Glenn, you're going to set up a COVID modeling task force." And this thing is probably going to be around a while, so we need to have a good visibility is what is COVID mortality going to look like, now and going forward in the general population in our book of business. What are the market implications of that? You're going to go model that, right? So I put together a task force with data scientists, data engineers, medical doctors, we had some medical doctors in that, and we had government affairs people, because if you remember, lots of different state, policies that were quite diverse, right? And that influenced the pandemic quite a bit. So we put together this task force, and then we looked for data, right? And then we said, okay, well, what data can we get? Well, can we get CDC data? We get New York Times data. We get Google data based on geographic movement. We get, so we tapped, a handful of different major data sources, and then small ones, and then it became a big initiative. So we had to figure out mortality because that directly affects our business. So we actually had some of probably the best COVID pandemic models, that I know about. Obviously, we couldn't make ours public, but ours were probably much better than any of the public models. Because we had all this, could all pull all these resources together. So it was relevant for, mortality, which is, obviously drives our business. It was also very relevant for sales because, there was much less personal interaction. And a lot of our sales are personal interaction. So how do we predict that? Then we set up a charitable fund, as New York Life, we set up a charitable fund that would pay money to the families of medical professionals who died from COVID. So we set up this big charitable fund. So then we had to predict, okay, how much money are we going to pay out to these people so we can set up the right allowances for this fund? And how do we reach these people? How do we get to all the nurses in the country and their families and let them know that money is there for them to use? Right? Data exercise. So that's just an example of, in the corporate, big initiatives, how myself and my team kind of got involved and drove it.
Yeah, and Glenn, it sounds like you're doing a lot of fantastic stuff at New York Life, both for the community and also from a data business perspective. I've just got a couple more questions for you. So from your experience, what do you think are some of the best ways for data leaders to gain more business influence?
Well, I guess there's nothing like, working with business and doing it, right? I think the important thing is for data scientists at all levels, even junior data scientists, put yourself in a position that you have to talk to business people a lot, right? And that might feel a little uncomfortable at first, but with sort of with the practice of it and the experience of it, and the focus on it, you'll get better at it and you'll gain knowledge. So be in a position where you can do that, which means, joining an organization that allows you to do that, and then seeking out that opportunity. But then also, be curious, right? So a lot of people say, oh, I need to keep up with and data science tools. And that's true, right? I'm not denying that. That is important. But you also need to keep up with, what's going on in the various business organizations and what they worry about every day. That is equally important.
And final question then, what career advice would you give for up-and-coming data scientists?
Well, I would say, if you're, depending on the level, right? If you're very junior, focus on your technical skills and start building your business skills. And put yourself, for all levels, put yourself into an organization, into a group where you can learn, right? Where there's people that are worried about your career, where there's people that will help you, people that can teach you, pose on a technical level, but they can also teach you on an organizational level and on a business level on how to be a more effective, a technical person, a more effective data scientist or data engineer or MLOps engineer. So seek that out. I think that is very important. And then from like a mid-level to a senior level on, you probably have to specialize a bit, right? So when you're very junior, you can jump around industries a little bit, and that's okay. When you get to mid-level or more senior, you probably want to have an industry focus, because what you do in insurance does not translate all that well to consumer packaged goods, right? It just doesn't. The purely algorithmic side does, but then your business knowledge becomes more important. And you can't be knowledgeable in all industries. That's not really realistic.
Well, Glenn, fantastic advice. Thanks for coming on the show, and we've got a lot of really great insights, and I'm sure we'll be in touch again soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.